Okay, so I'm back on the Salvinos JR Chase Elliott Camaro this morning, and just an update on the things I've got done since the last video. I've finished the wheels and tires and got the decals on the tires, and which I might have had that in the last video, I can't remember. I painted these wheels a Tester's metallic black, and they give you the BDS decals that to put on the wheels. I've got all the decals on the body, including the hood pins and everything, and I've glued the chassis down to the, or I've glued the roll cage down to this chassis piece on the bottom of these, which is just one long flat piece, which is probably one of the most unique things about these cars compared to other generations of NAS cars, and that makes it a lot different. But this is a good idea, I guess, because it keeps parts and fluids from getting on the track in a crash, and it improves the aerodynamics of the car also. And probably the biggest problem I've had building these is getting this this roll cage glued down to that chassis piece. They never fit really good, and you can see here I glued it down and had to clamp it down to get it to stay. But I'm at a point now where I'm going to start putting everything together for the final assembly. I have these wheels done. I left the discs the factory plastic color from Salvinos, and I painted the brake calipers black graphite metallic. And on these this rod on this piece here, that's for the rear axle, that will slide into the transmission, which I'll be doing in the next part of the video. I'll put the wheels on. I also painted that back shelf piece a Tester's metallic black, and I've got all the engine parts done, detailed, ready to go together. Put the fans on the block, and then painted that throttle body, and that other piece to the left is the fuel rail and coil packs. You have a front and rear bumper piece that I'll put on in the next part of the video, as well as this rack and pinion system and the steering shaft. And also here's the drive shaft that goes in these, which, really you could get by without putting this on. It slides underneath the tunnel between the floorboard and, well, I'll show you that tunnel piece in the middle that goes through the middle of the interior. And there's the engine control unit, which would be an MSD product, I imagine, and it is red, and I painted the frame for it some black graphite metallic also. I've got the shocks detailed, which the reference pictures I've seen, they're that gold color, and I may need to paint those actual springs black. I'll have to look and see. I can't remember if those are black or just aluminum, but if they're black, I'll paint those also. And then about the only pieces left are these large wheel wells that go on the rear, which I'll put on in the next part of the video. And then you have this air cleaner system, which is pretty large, and I'll show how to put that together also. Here's the front and rear part of that the radiator actually goes inside of. But I'll do a second part to this video and put all these final pieces together. Okay, I've started putting everything together for the final assembly, which I'll do in a couple different stages. And I've got the motor mounted down onto the chassis, and I put those fuel rails which go between the motor and the intake down. I got the steering shaft in, and the rack and pinion systems in, as well as that front crossbar that goes between the radiator and the engine compartment. And I put the ignition control unit on also. And just wanted to show how I do this. So I just put that motor in as the block by itself with the heads on it and the fan belts on it. Now I'll put that throttle body and intake down over those fuel rails, and then I will these or I said the fuel rails. It's the all right, so I've started putting everything together for the final assembly, which I'll do in 2 or 3 different stages. And I glued that engine control box onto where the dash goes. These cars this is a 2022 car, and at first they didn't have a dash on these. They just have those 2 bars where the dash would go. But in the middle of the season last year, a lot of the teams started adding a dashboard to these, and I believe all the 2023 cars I have an actual dashboard, which is cut out around that ignition control unit and that stiffener bar that comes down. I don't know, I have a 2023 Toyota I'll be building soon. I haven't opened the box yet to look at it, but I believe that's how they're made. I put these fuel lines down, which go underneath the intake. Then I'll go ahead and put this intake and throttle body down on top of those. And then you have these coil packs and fuel rails. We'll go down over that and complete the engine. Then I've added the steering shaft and the rack and pinion bar, as well as that crossbar that goes on the front of the engine cradle. And then you have this engine cradle bar, which comes molded in black, and that's what I always leave it as. But I've seen some people paint these white. I'm not sure what the actual proper color is. So now that I have all this stuff in, I will go ahead and mount these shocks and start putting this intake and radiator together. And in the next part of the video, I should be putting just about everything should be just about together. And the last thing I'll do is put the wheels on. I still have to put those bumpers on also, as well as those wheel wells, which I'll wait till after the wheels are on to glue those to the back part of the roll cage. Okay, I also wanted to go over this intake system in depth, because it was kind of confusing for me the first couple times that I've built these, and but it's actually pretty simple to put together. As you can see there on the instructions, you have these, it comes in 4 pieces basically, and there's 2 front pieces that glue together, then the 2 back pieces that will glue together. Your radiator will go down inside of that front piece and glue to it, and then you'll just put the back piece will glue right over that, and it'll go on the front of the car, or in front of the engine outside of the roll cage. And then it has these other pieces, which I will show in a little bit, that go over the top of it. Okay, so on the upper part of this intake system, you're gonna have these 2 semicircle pieces, and they just, one goes on top of the other like this, and those are going to, when we get the intake together, those will go down right in front of the this first piece I demonstrated, which has the radiator in it. And then the actual top of the intake comes in 3 separate pieces. You know, this is gonna be your first one, then this middle one will glue to that, and then this third one, which goes over the throttle body, is going to pretty much cover that one and go out, and it will connect to the front part of this radiator piece whenever it's all put together, which I'll show shortly. Okay, so I've mounted that radiator shroud and the middle part of it, that semicircle piece, I've glued those down to the chassis, and I've assembled the top of the air cleaner, and have put this engine cradle bar in. And before I put the air cleaner on, I need to glue down these radiator hoses, which attach to the outside of that front radiator shroud. So I've detailed those with a gold Sharpie and some Tamiya clear blue paint to make the hose fittings look authentic. And then once I do that, I'll put these bumpers on, which I've assembled, that go on the front and back. That this large bumper, which attaches to the fuel, kind of cradles the fuel cell, and then there's one on front also, which if you watch NASCAR, these are the reason that or I've heard these are the reason that you see a lot of aggressive driving from the last couple seasons from certain drivers with these cars, because they're so well protected and padded by these bumpers that they are able to get into the back of people a little harder than they would have in the past. But I've been told that's the reason why these cars are so durable. And then I'll put those on, and then pretty much all I'll have left is putting the wheels and tires, and also I'll put the headers on. One of the last things, that these headers, they have to go in from the outside, and they're in two pieces, which I'll demonstrate that when I get ready to put those on. So in the next part of the video, I should be finishing things up. Okay, here's the final assembly, and I'll go around the car and go over some of this stuff now that it's all put together. There's the air cleaner system I was talking about in the last part of the video, all put together with that top piece that goes from the throttle body down to the radiator shroud. That's what it looks like. And on the Mustang, and I believe also on the Camry, that's a little different if you build one of those, which I'll be building the Toyota in a couple videos from now. There's the headers and shocks and the interior with that engine control unit. And as you can see, that fire extinguisher is down on the passenger side, and the stiffener bar runs through it. And these have that really detailed modern seat, which is nice. And then the gauge cluster is on those bars that run across the car above the steering wheel. And like I said, the newer cars have an actual dashboard. Last year when they started using these, they didn't at first. And there's that rear shelf piece that goes over the fuel cell behind the driver's area, and the fuel cell and the lines that run out of there to the gas cap. And there's that larger bumper I was also talking about in the last part of the video. And there's what it looks like on the front. On the body, you have a couple different spoiler options, and I'd always use that large Speedway spoiler. And then part of it that mounts onto the left side of the car by the rear window, if you can, and that little piece that goes on the trunk, if you can see that. And then when you get ready to put this all together, this body will just sit down right over the roll cage. I'm not going to glue it down. I'll just put it on a shelf like this. And I will put some better pictures of all this in the last part of the video. Thanks for watching.